In the year 2247, the Dominion fleet crossed the outer edge of your solar system. 1 million warships. The largest armada ever assembled in known history. Their mission was simple. Survey. Assess. Harvest. They had done it 1,000 times before. 1,000 worlds. 1,000 civilizations. None had lasted more than 72 hours. Commander Veth stood at the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion. He was not a cruel being. He was simply efficient. In 400 years of service, he had never failed a harvest. He looked at the pale blue world rotating slowly on his display. Small. Fragile. Mostly water. He almost felt something close to pity. The assessment report had been thorough. No energy shields. No faster-than-light travel. No directed energy weapons. The dominant species, they called themselves humans, were still using chemical propulsion. Still burning ancient fuel extracted from dead organisms buried in the ground. The Dominion classification system had 10 threat levels. Level 10 was reserved for species that had survived contact before. Earth was Category 0. The lowest possible classification. Not even worthy of caution. The descent began at 0300 hours, Earth time. 240 warships broke atmosphere simultaneously. The electromagnetic pulse alone shut down every power grid on the planet. Billions of humans woke in darkness. No electricity. No communications. No warning systems. Commander Veth watched the thermal readings from orbit. 7 billion heat signatures. All stationary. All afraid. Good, he thought. Fear was efficient. Fear made harvests clean. The ground forces landed in every major population center. New York. London. Beijing. Karachi. Cairo. Sao Paulo. 100,000 soldiers per city. They marched in perfect formation through empty streets. Weapons holstered. There was no need to raise them. Category 0 planets always surrendered within the first hour. The humans were probably already gathering in open spaces. Waiting to be processed. That was how it always worked. Commander Veth checked his chronometer. 47 minutes until full ground control. He began drafting his completion report. But the streets were wrong. Soldier Prime Kale noticed it first. The thermal scanners showed thousands of heat signatures. But nothing was moving. The humans were not in the open spaces. They were in the buildings. In the shadows. Behind walls. Kale sent a standard compliance broadcast on all frequencies. Emerge. Submit. Processing will begin. Silence. He sent it again. Silence. That was when the first explosion happened. The device had been buried under the street 3 days before the fleet arrived. A simple thing. Old technology. Crude chemistry. But the humans had packed it with everything they had. 43 soldiers of the Dominion disappeared in a single breath. Then the second explosion. Then the third. Then from every window, every rooftop, every shadow, they came. Screaming. Not in fear. In rage. Soldier Prime Kale had fought on 11 worlds. He had never seen anything fight like this. The humans used no energy weapons. No shields. No battle suits. They used metal and fire and their own bodies. One human female threw herself onto 2 of his soldiers simultaneously. She was half their size. She was bleeding from 3 wounds. She did not stop. Kale sent the emergency signal to Commander Veth. Something is wrong with this planet. Commander Veth received the report and dismissed it. Primitive species sometimes had an initial resistance response. It never lasted. Pain always broke them. He ordered his soldiers to demonstrate force. Show them what pain means. Make them understand resistance is impossible. The report that came back 12 minutes later was the first thing in 400 years that made Commander Veth feel something he did not recognize. It took him a long moment to identify the feeling. It was unease. The demonstration of force had not worked. The humans had seen their own people fall. And they had not retreated. They had gotten louder. Angrier. A human male with a broken arm had picked up a weapon with the other arm and kept fighting. A human child, had thrown burning material from a window onto a patrol unit. They were not fighting to win. They were fighting because they could not stop themselves. Because something inside them refused to accept the word impossible. No species in the known galaxy did this. In 40 years of xenobiology research, the Dominion had catalogued 800 intelligent species. Not one of them fought like this. Not one. By the 6th hour, the Dominion had lost more soldiers on Earth than on the previous 40 harvests combined. Commander Veth called a full command meeting. The data made no sense. Humans had no advantages. Physically weaker than 6 of their soldiers. No natural armor. No venom. No enhanced senses. They were, by every biological metric, unremarkable. And yet they kept coming. One of his senior analysts offered a theory. "Commander," she said quietly, "I have been studying their historical records. This species has been at war with itself for its entire existence. Every generation. Every century. They have never known a world without conflict. We did not bring war to Earth. We brought it to the one species that had been training for this their entire history. The order to reinforce came too late. The humans had already adapted. Within 18 hours they had studied Dominion armor and found its weak points. Within 24 hours they were using captured Dominion weapons. Within 36 hours they had begun coordinating across continents using nothing but radio signals and human runners. No satellites. No internet. No infrastructure. Just human voices passing information from city to city. Commander Veth stared at his tactical display. The harvest zones were collapsing. One by one. Like lights going out. He had never retreated in 400 years. He began calculating retreat vectors. The final battle happened outside what the humans called Istanbul. A city that had been conquered and reconquered 17 times in its history. A city that had seen empire after empire rise and fall within its walls. Perhaps it was fitting. Commander Veth descended to the surface personally. He needed to understand. He found a human commander waiting for him in the ruins. An old man. Grey hair. One eye missing. Leaning on a broken rifle like a walking stick. Veth towered over him by 3 feet. The old man looked up at him without flinching. Without fear. Just tired. And absolutely, completely unmoved. Veth spoke in the human's own language. His translation systems were precise. "Why?" he asked. "You cannot win. You know this. Your losses are catastrophic. Why do you keep fighting?" The old man was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that Veth's translation system struggled to render accurately. "Because this is our home. And we have never, not once in our entire history, given it to anyone." Veth stood there in the ruins of an ancient city and felt something he had never felt in 4 centuries of conquest. He felt small. The retreat order was issued at 0600 hours on the 4th day. 1 million soldiers. Returning to their ships. In silence. The humans did not celebrate. They were too exhausted. Too broken. Too many of them were gone. But those who remained stood in the streets and watched the ships rise. One woman held a child on her hip. Both of them covered in ash. Both of them watching the sky clear. The child pointed upward and said something. "Are they leaving, Mama?" "Yes," the woman said. "They're leaving. Will they come back?" The woman looked at the sky for a long time. "No," she said finally. "I don't think they will." Commander Vetha's final transmission reached Dominion High Command 16 hours after the retreat. It was the shortest report he had ever filed in 400 years of service. 7 words. Do not return. Category 0 was a lie. The transmission was received, logged, and marked with the highest threat classification in Dominion history. Level 10. The pale blue world was given a new designation in the Dominion archives. It was no longer called Earth. It was called the Warning. And for the next 300 years, every Dominion commander who passed through that solar system did so with engines quiet and weapons cold. Because whatever lived on that pale blue world had earned something no species in known history had ever earned. Not respect. Not fear. Something deeper than both. They had earned the right to be left alone.